Why does core transformation work? To understand why and how it works, it helps to understand what doesn't work. From our observations, there are three main ways that clients stay stuck, or that people in general stay stuck. The first way that clients stay stuck is by focusing on a mental understanding of their problems without actually transforming anything. Many people think that if they only understand their problems well enough, the problems will go away. Or they think that if they just talk about their problems and tell their story to someone so that someone else understands them, that this will somehow get them unstuck. Now, however, this actually works against us because problematic behaviors, feelings, and thought patterns are generated by the unconscious. As one person told me after using a cognitive-based approach, he could think more rationally while still feeling just as bad. So here's a specific example. One of my clients felt really defensive in team meetings at work, and she totally understood that a reaction wasn't rational. She knew that she wasn't really being attacked. She knew that nothing bad was likely to happen, and she knew that she was a valuable member of her work team. She could even identify times when she was a young child and she felt overwhelmed when other people were laughing at something that she had made in school. So she thought, maybe the pattern started then. But this conscious understanding didn't do anything to change her defensive reaction. In fact, focusing on a conscious understanding was just another way of perpetuating the problem. It was a way of spinning her wheels and staying in the same place. And in a moment, I'll share what happened when she did core transformation. The second way that clients stay stuck is by using willpower to try to make themselves change. They struggle with themselves. And this is actually usually what people do when they don't have a way to change at the unconscious level. And it doesn't work. It can even make things worse. So, for example, there was a salesman whose problem was he always felt an internal pressure to make the sale. And he was really frustrated with this. He hated it. In fact, the sense of pressure was so unpleasant that he thought he'd have to change careers. He tried to get rid of the sense of pressure just using willpower. He tried to just let go of the pressure. But the more that he tried to stop feeling the pressure, the worse it got. Does this sound familiar? And in a moment, I'll tell you what happened when the salesman did core transformation. The third way that clients stay stuck is they distract themselves instead of changing the problem. People have all sorts of ways to feel better. They might soothe themselves with food or watching YouTube videos or something else. Maybe they just tell themselves over and over again that they're okay. They might use some sort of self-help method that helps them feel better or think better or act better for a moment, but then the problem comes right back. So for example, one person wanted to change his anxious feeling, and he tried a lot of self-help to try to change it. One thing he tried was meditating, using traditional meditation methods. And he found that by meditating, he could change his feeling in the moment. So he felt calm while he was meditating. And using meditation, he could even be present with his emotions. But the emotions didn't change. So in effect, he was just distracting himself. So the three ways that clients stay stuck is through conscious understanding, willpower, inner struggle, and distraction. These are all attempted solutions, and actually, they keep us stuck. If you want a real solution, you need core transformation. So first, with core transformation, instead of beefing up our conscious understanding, we engage the unconscious, and the transformation is taking place from the inside out. The unconscious is doing the changing. So remember the woman who was defensive in her team meetings at work. When she let go of trying to figure it out consciously, and I guided her through the core transformation process, her experience changed from the inside out. She discovered that she didn't need any more understanding, she needed change. So I helped her to access the unconscious part of her that had been getting her to feel defensive. And through core transformation, we transformed this unconscious part. And we also worked with one other part that was related. And after one session working on this issue, in the next session, she said there had been a couple of stressful work situations and they just went fine. So she was ready to work on something else. Now, coming back to the second way that clients stay stuck, the willpower method. With core transformation, it isn't about inner struggle. In fact, it's the opposite. So instead of fighting with our unconscious, we're satisfying the deepest yearnings of our troublesome parts. Now, remember the example of the salesman who felt this pressure to make the sale. He went to a core transformation training and he discovered that the unconscious part of him that had been generating the sense of pressure actually had a deep yearning for what we call a core state. And I'll explain what this is in a moment, but just briefly, it's a powerfully transformative state that feels really great. And when this unconscious part got its core state, the pressure to make the sale just completely disappeared. In fact, he didn't care if he made the sale or not. And as a result, his sales doubled for one of his main lines and increased very significantly for his other main line. And that's because he was naturally able to focus on the customer and what the customer wanted and needed. And now he's still in sales 30 years later. And I can confirm that this is true because this man is my husband, Kevin. Now, coming back to the third way that clients stay stuck, distraction. So remember the guy that felt anxious and meditation didn't work for him? He learned core transformation out of the book and he did it with himself. For a month, he used core transformation actually on everything that came up. So he worked on anxiety and everything else too. Now, for most of us, it's a better fit to first be guided by someone else and later to start guiding ourselves. But this person was really good at self-guiding and his anxiety went away. Plus, since he was working on everything else, he got a bunch of other changes too. And so when he learned core transformation, he stopped distracting himself and he did something that worked. Now, how did that happen? How does core transformation actually work? So now I'm going to tell you the 3 keys of how core transformation works. And these are the 3 keys that make it different from all other approaches. And the first key is we access the unconscious part of us that's causing the problem in the first place. This is like getting to the right URL inside. This is where the change needs to happen. And then how do we change it? With the second key. The second key for how core transformation works is we access the exact right resource, and we get this resource through the part that's been causing the problem. With core transformation, we don't just talk to parts, because if we just talk to the parts, it might be interesting, there might be some insights, but then you're just letting the parts do what they do, and they don't know how to change either. With core transformation, we're guiding the attention of each part in a very precise and specific way. And using this systematic questioning, we can redirect the part's attention and help them to discover what their true, deepest yearning actually is. And it's always a state of being. It might be called presence, oneness, serenity, love, essence, okayness, or something else. And these are powerfully transformative states. In our work, we call these core states. And these core states of being are the same states that people can get by meditating if they're really good at it. But if someone gets one of these states through meditation, it feels imposed upon the part. Whereas if we help the part discover what it really wants, it's transformative because we're not pushing anything onto the part. For example, one client had all sorts of other parts work background, and in fact, this made it take longer because she was just letting her inner parts ramble on and on. She wanted to talk about all these insights she was getting from her inner parts. Wow, the reason for this problem is my second grade teacher humiliated me in front of the whole class. And the problem was The insights weren't at a level that would lead to change. They were at a level that led to understanding. So all you're doing here is taking these insights and making them conscious. With these other types of parts work, the insights stay at the content level, or we could call this the psychological level, because that's what the part's paying attention to. And insights at the psychological level don't really change anything. With core transformation, we can help the part shift attention in a very precise way so that we can get to the deepest level, the core state level. And this has power of being transformative. Once you're there at the core state, instead of psychological insights, you can have access to real wisdom. Now it sounds like a spiritual teacher talking. Or sometimes there isn't any talking. It can be quite wordless, and either way is fine. But the kind of understanding that we get after the part has reached the core state is profoundly and fundamentally different from what you'd get if you just let the part talk without redirecting its attention to reach the core state. And now core transformation is the only method that's able to access the core state through the part. And that's why we don't need willpower or inner struggle. We're satisfying the deepest yearnings of this inner part. And this allows the problem feelings, behaviors, or thoughts to simply fall away. But that's not even all there is to it. So the third key for how core transformation works is that we integrate the core state with the 3 B's of human experience. Remember our meditator who could access a calm state, but it didn't change the problem? That's because, well, first of all, the core state wasn't accessed through the unconscious part. In addition, it wasn't integrated through his experience in an effective way. And with core transformation, we're transforming the 3 B's, our behaviors, our beliefs, and our being. So anytime you notice a problem happening, you're noticing the behavioral level of your experience. That's the surface level. It's what we do or think or feel that we want to change. So for example, let's say we want to change our negative thinking or feeling unworthy or yelling at the kids. These are examples that we could say are at the behavioral level. Now I am kind of lumping a bunch of stuff together and calling it behavior. So thinking, feeling, what we do, all of this I'm calling behavior because it starts with a B. So that makes it easy to remember and fits in with the 3 B's. So we could just say that this is the surface level of our experience. It's the behavior of this inner part. So then the second B is beliefs. Underneath that behavior, there are always limiting beliefs. So for example, let's say that a person's behavior is that they eat too many sweets. And they may have an unconscious belief that they have to eat sweet food in order to experience comfort, like this is their only way. They may have a belief that eating sweets is a way to be kind to themselves. In fact, there's probably a whole bunch of limiting beliefs behind this one behavior. Then the third B is being. And if there's a problem happening, then at the beingness level, there's some kind of lack. There's a disconnection from who we really are. People usually aren't aware of this consciously, but unconsciously, for this part, there's a sense of emptiness or a sense of not being okay or something similar. There's a discomfort or lack at the level of our very being. And with core transformation, all the 3 B's are transformed from the inside out. For example, I worked with a woman who felt abandoned by her boyfriend, so she was obsessing about this ex-boyfriend. So that's the behavior level. That's what she noticed as the problem at the surface. And the unconscious part of her that felt abandoned believed that the only way she could feel safe and loved was through him. This is a limiting belief, and there were a whole bunch of other limiting beliefs as well. Now, of course, she knew better consciously. She knew she didn't really need to have her ex-boyfriend, but her unconscious part had these limiting beliefs. And then at the beingness level, this part's deepest yearning, the core state, was a sense of deep fullness. And now through core transformation, this isn't just an intellectual idea. It's a felt experience. As she was accessing the sense of fullness, I could just see her whole body melt. She had this glow that was palpable. So her sense of being was transformed. And after her being, the sense of fullness was a powerful resource that also transformed the limiting beliefs. Now that this part really understood, for the first time, that the sense of fullness could actually be there from the inside, whether or not the ex-boyfriend was in the picture. This was a profound learning. Then, by learning the steps of core transformation, the behavior was also transformed. The sense of fullness transformed the feeling of abandonment so that she no longer felt a need to obsess about her ex-boyfriend. So that's one example of changing the 3 B's of human experience with core transformation. Now, of course, it would be possible to divide our experience into even more levels than just behaviors, beliefs, and being. We could come up with 6 or even 12 levels of experience. But the important thing is that all the levels of experience are transformed and integrated with the core state when we're doing core transformation. And this simple model of the 3 B's is enough to understand this crucial point. Now, I want to come back to limiting beliefs for a moment because there are some other methods that focus on changing limiting beliefs. And what's different about core transformation is we don't need to analyze ourselves and identify all the limiting beliefs. Spending extra time analyzing our problem would just get us more in our heads and keep us stuck. Instead, with the core state, the limiting beliefs change organically and naturally through doing the process. So now you understand the 3 keys of how core transformation works. We access the part of us that's causing the problem. We access the exact right resource through the part that's been causing the problem to transform this unconscious part. We integrate the core state with the 3 B's of human experience: our behaviors, our beliefs, our being. And this is how core transformation is different from anything else. This is the only method that has all 3 of these keys, and it's why core transformation works so well. And if you want to understand this even more fully, the best way is to experience it.